if I was really bored, I would go, they had it was some of the Barneys had a button in the hand that you could push and you'd get a little sample of the sound. So there were like 12 of them all lined up. So okay.
They loved you there. They loved you at Toys R Us.
Little madness.
Welcome, friends and fans, to another episode of GalaxyCon Live, where we are bringing the convention experience directly to you. And today we are going back to the schoolyard with the amazing, talented cast of Barney and Friends, and now is the time for all of you in our chat room to begin typing in your questions for them. Immediately after this session, you will have the opportunity to talk to them directly through our private chat options, as well as shop our selection of personalized autographs, all of which are available now at GalaxyCon.com. So without further ado, let's go back to memory and imagination and bring out our guests. Our first guest, she is a voice of the pickle-loving yellow Protoceratops BJ. Please welcome Patty Wirtz.
Hi, it's great to be here today. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for being here with us. How are you doing in your corner of the world?
Oh, I'm doing great. I am thrilled to be here, and I'm surrounded by all my great memories of Barney and looking forward to talking with everybody and to seeing Bob and Julie's faces and just kind of going into the Barney world.
Outstanding. Well, absolutely glad to have you here. And yeah, we have two Patties for once. This is a first on GalaxyCon Live.
Double Patties.
Hey, we're a double meat Patty. All right. He is an actor and graphic designer. Joins us as the original voice of the beloved and heavily satirized Barney the Dinosaur. Please welcome our friend Bob West.
Heavily satirized, let me tell you.
Yeah, well, we'll talk to that. First of all, Bob, how are you?
I'm good. I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm not having nearly the problems that my Dino voice friends in Texas have been having.
Oh,
so, yeah, it's great. It's good to be here. Love to do these things. It's so much fun.
Absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure to have you back with Patty, and hopefully Julie will join us. We'll keep our fingers crossed because we thought we fixed anything else. But I'll say this to both of you. Absolutely welcome to our little show here. As always, we here at GalaxyCon are looking forward to the day when the world does get a little bit back to normal and we can once again host you on our physical stages and get you all back in front of your fans. But in the meantime, we have this online forum and we are so glad to have you here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So happy to be here. Thank you, Patty.
Absolutely. Our team is going through the chat room right now, pulling out the questions. In the meantime, just a couple of openers. First one just occurred to me. Have people ever stopped thinking you were in the costumes?
No.
No.
Okay.
Yes, people still think we're in the costumes.
It is constant confusion. Constantly, there are a lot of people who come to my page on Facebook, and brand new folks will show up and they'll say, I thought, this, or I thought that. And there's always some kindly fan who steps in and says, no, there's actually two people. And we have to explain the whole Dino Sync concept.
Yes. The process.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully Julie will come on with that. Let's start off with this. I would love to hear, if our audience doesn't know already, how did you come into these roles?
Ooh, Patty, I need to hear this story.
Okay, this is actually a fun story. It was, I feel like there was a bit of serendipity involved here. I was a stage actress for years and years. And in fact, I continue my affiliation with children's programming because there is a theater, a professional live theater here in Fort Worth called Casa Manana. And I was a resident actress at in their children's theater for 7 years. So I played every evil queen, wicked witch, but I also did a variety of like the spider in Charlotte's Web and lots of fun animal roles, the owl in Winnie the Pooh. So doing that for a long time. Then I had an agent over in Dallas that I did some on-camera stuff, but I started to segue and do some voiceover work. And when I had been doing voiceover work for a little while, I just got a call from my agent, and she said they're looking for a little boy dinosaur's voice, a little 8-year-old boy dinosaur voice. And I thought, well, what does that sound like? Yeah, I think I can try that. So I went over to the audition at Color Dynamics, and I walked in the room, and it was full of people. And I thought, okay, well, here we go. There's a lot of competition for this, but I waited and waited for my audition time. And eventually they called me in. I was the last person to go in. And they had already had a round of auditions and for the character and hadn't found what they wanted. So when I went in, I met with Jim Rowley, who was one of the producers on the senior producer on the show, and Dennis DeShazer, who was the executive producer. And we sat down and we started to talk, and all of a sudden Dennis pulls out this cassette. Children cassettes were things before DVDs, before we downloaded things. They were,
Google it.
Yeah, you can Google it. So anyway, I was trying to drum up some voiceover work, and I was marketing myself. So I had sent this cassette to Color Dynamics, which is where they were holding the auditions. It didn't really have, it wasn't directly to Barney. It was just to do like some training films and things like that to do voiceover work.
Sure.
And Dennis pulls out this cassette and he said, "There's a spot on your demo tape for Schweigert Baloney." That has a character voice on it, Schweigert Baloney. And so he said, "We're kind of liking that voice for the BJ voice." So we started tweaking it a little bit. They had me read some things, sing a little bit. And I just kind of channeled my 8-year-old nephew. He was 8 at the time, so that was perfect. And that was my audition, and I felt good, pretty good about it. Whether it feel good or bad about it.
Yeah.
So when I left that day, I felt pretty good about it. And about 2 days later, I got a call and got guessed. Yeah. So it was all due to Schweigert Baloney.
Yeah.
That's
And to this day,
Now,
DJ,
is there really a Schweigert Baloney, or is that something you made up for the demo tape?
That's something I made up for the demo.
Okay.
Yeah, good on you, because
to this day, BJ is full of baloney. What can we say?
It's still full of baloney to this day.
Because I'm an aficionado of baloney, and like if there was a band that I haven't tried yet, then I need to seek it out. You
gotta try the
maybe there's
Schweigert.
in Texas, you gotta try the Schweigert.
The
baloney.
Schweigert. So
like
that's it. Yeah.
Wow, absolutely outstanding. So, and Bob, where did this begin for you, or do we go back to Chuck E. Cheese?
Well, we could go back to Chuck E. Cheese. I mean, if
why not? Let's give. I want to give Julie a little time to jump in. So
Okay.
Let's go. Let's talk about Chuck E. Cheese.
Well, we could. Yeah, I was living and working in San Antonio after having gone to college there, and I was doing. That's where I started my voiceover career. But I started going to Austin and Dallas and Houston. Speaking of Southwest Airlines, as we were earlier, I would actually go fly around the state sometimes. But moved to Dallas, and the first gig I got was Chuck E. Cheese. A couple of the characters. First there was Jasper T. Giles. He's the dog who plays the banjo. And then there's the Pasquale. He makes the pizzas. Oh my goodness! How you doing? Oh, buongiorno. So yeah, those
love
two
the
guys,
voice, hated the pizza.
Cute.
and then I did that for I don't know, was it maybe 6 months or something before the audition for Barney came up. Dennis DeShazer again, who was one of the producers, called my agent and Nancy Johnson at the Campbell Agency and said, I have, or was it the Campbell Agency? I don't know. It was Nancy Johnson though. He said, I need this. He described the character and he said, friendly, big dinosaur, kind of goofy. And they were actually at the time they were looking for somebody to be in the costume and to do the voice, which is the normal thing for full body puppets, right? So I had done some full body kind of puppet or costume character work as the Blaster for Humana Hospital Medical City Dallas, which is a robot
I didn't know
character.
that.
And we went to grade schools and talked about health and safety and stuff. And I had silver face paint and scared the bejeebers out of kids everywhere. and so Nancy, of course, put.
And you're a pretty tall guy too.
Yeah, I'm like 6'1". So
yeah,
Nancy put robot and big goofy dinosaur together and said, "Boy, have I got a guy for you." So I went to this audition and we went through everything. They really liked my voice, but it turns out I was too tall for the costume, which they were already building, which is not the normal way to do it. You usually cast first and then build the costume around someone. So, but it worked out great because we're like we each get to concentrate on our own thing. The voice gets to concentrate on that, and the body on the body.
Yeah.
And we just synced up, and we called it
Yeah.
Dino Sync. We never registered the trademark, but I think we should
Sync.
have. So that's how it happened.
Indeed.
History was made.
Mhm.
Indeed. And speaking of syncing up our dinosaurs, let's cross our fingers and let's reintroduce Julie again.
Bring the magic.
Hello?
Hello.
How is this?
Better.
Are we good? Oh, I can't move.
Did you give it a
I
spongy?
shouldn't turn my head to the left or the right. No, I think we're fine now. And
Good.
I thoroughly enjoyed listening to Bob and Patty. So
For once. Well, it's been a while.
being reminded of all those great stories.
Oh, indeed. Well, Julie, glad to have you here. Glad we were able to discern you and everything else. And yeah, just if you could, I'd love to hear how this began for you.
Well, Patty's in my story is a bit similar because I was in a production of Nonsense at Casa Manana, the same theater in Fort Worth, when the auditions were held. But my character came along a year before BJ did.
Mhm.
So I was actually portraying Sister Mary Amnesia. And I had decided that when Amnesia was amnesiatic, that she had sort of a childlike voice, just up here a little bit and a little airy and a little, like this. And so I was called in for this audition. We'd had a 6-show week, and this was a Monday, and I remember standing out in the hallway listening to other women who had these great child voices. I mean, they sounded like 5-year-old little boys or 7-year-old little boys or girls. And I thought, I was sounding pretty much like this at that time. And I thought, this isn't going to be for me unless the little baby dinosaur is really, really rough. It's just not going to work. But I went in and I thought about that sound that children make in a toy store when that one toy that they have to have or they simply will not be able to go on in this world. And that sound that they make when they want it, and it came out like this. And so that's how she was created. And Dennis DeShazer, one of the producers, dropped his head down on the desk, and I thought, well, I either booked it or I am about to be kicked out of this room. I don't know what they love me or they hate me. I can't tell. And then they had me sing Itsy Bitsy Spider, and there's a little thing in it that said, one more time, Itsy Bitsy Spider. And I, instead of that, I went, one more time, hey! And I think that's the one that sealed the deal. So. It's been such a fun ride, and I get to hear from so many wonderful young performers, young people. To me, they're young. About the music influence, the music and the dance, how much that had to do with either making them want to do it themselves or just helping them open up and enjoy and find something, find a hobby that they love or find, a connection with the arts. And the arts are so important.
Yes.
Absolutely, very much so. And Ed, you're absolutely right. When you're in an audition and that visceral physical reaction, it's either the best possible scenario or the worst possible scenario. There's just no way. So absolutely, indeed. So when did you begin to realize that maybe the show was not only gaining in popularity, but maybe even eclipsing everybody's expectations, because it did hit a national apex? Right. And that, of course, was when you guys gave grist for the late night comedians and their mill.
Yeah, plenty.
Yeah.
You've hit when to when you're showing.
One of them for me, being invited up to do the Today Show. Jane Pauley first, and Katie Couric was a big fan because her daughter was a huge fan. A daughter or son, one of her children was a huge fan. And but when Saturday Night Live had Charles Barkley do a one-on-one with Barney, and of course you know, the whole bit was that Barney, you know, gets a bandage over the eye and his tail kind of breaks, but at the end, Charles Barkley throws his arm around Barney and says, "In the end, I realized it's all about love." And they walk off, and I thought, yeah,
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live. Just
No
saying.
sarcasm there. No irony. No.
That and playing Radio City
Yeah.
and having it be sold out.
Yeah.
We were there for several
sure.
weeks, and we did a lot of performances,
Yep.
and they were all sold out.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that was kind of surreal.
Yeah, and Kerry tells the story of when he was on the road. You know, we did a lot of, or Kerry and company did a lot of touring along the East Coast when we were first starting up, and I think it was even before I think it was before PBS started. I'm not sure, but there was, you know, he would show up at these venues that were sometimes just overflowing with people. And we had one, you know, after we got onto PBS and we started doing pledge breaks. We'd travel to different PBS stations for pledge breaks. And we went to Hartford, Connecticut, which was the home of Connecticut Public Television, which was our kind of our home system, our home station, because that's where the folks who didn't come up with the idea, who presented it to PBS, were stationed. And we went to Hartford Mall, and we drove up, and there were strollers and moms lining the sidewalks, and it was just a sea of moms and kids and dads. And we got inside, and floor to ceiling, 3 floors in that central court with like 6 deep at every rail, there was just people. And they had literally expected like 600 people, and there were 6,000.
Yeah.
And so we ended up having to do all kinds of, you know, rearranging, and we had to put on a show. We weren't planning to do that. It was supposed to be a meet and greet. And we had runners go out and buy up every single piece of Polaroid film. Google it, kids. Polaroid film in the city of Hartford, Connecticut.
Wow.
And so we stayed there for, I think it was like 5 hours it took to get through everything. It was crazy, and it was incredible, just amazing.
It absolutely was. And I was a little older than the target audience, but I had friends who had kids that were fans of the show. In particular, my first exposure was trapped in a van for 6 hours watching recording one of the stage performances. And I was aware of it. I hate this too. And I watched this several times, and I'm like, this is teaching kids to look both ways before they cross the street and ask questions and be nice to each other. It's like, what's the problem? What's the problem? I think the show, and I think what you and the cast and everyone else did, you made something nice and magical and sweet.
Thank you.
And it really did. And again, and if children of any age learned anything from it, it was all worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
And
so much of what we did was centered in kindness.
Yeah.
And that's really important. We don't realize, I think, with children, how much, you know, I mean, they're little recording machines. They are with everything they see and they hear, and they see and hear so many things, you know, any child does that, you know, they kind of give mixed messages to them, I think. And when you can give them the message of just be kind, and I think that's really important. And there's a comfort in that too.
Yeah. And I think that was a big
nice
factor.
too that Barney was that almost like a grandparent like figure, not judgmental, not so much having to be the disciplinarian, but being just this loving, accepting figure that I think a lot of kids need in their lives, that, you know, yes, at a young age, and then as they get older. I even had kids in my neighborhood who, you know, had gotten a little bit older and wouldn't admit to watching Barney anymore. There was one little boy I remember we were talking about, he was kind of looking at me and, you know, wanted to hear the voice and stuff, and, you know, kind of being a little bit aloof about it. And then he left, and his littler sister goes, he still watches it.
Yeah.
You know, they could tap into that tender place and still
Yeah.
feel comfortable there with Barney and
I
that kind
think
of
a big part
heart
of
tug.
I think that was a big factor in the acceptance and the love and the caring. And a lot of people, and you're saying what's the problem? A lot of people said, it's saccharine or it's cloying or whatever, and it wasn't actually. It was really genuinely loving. I mean, we were there in the studio, and we were a big family. We
Mhm.
loved the kids. It was just the atmosphere,
I think it appeared saccharine to the highly cynical eye.
Yes, I think
If,
that's
if
true.
you had
and
a
that's
cynical perspective, which again, humorous and again, the detractors, their whole job is being cynical about the whole world.
Right.
So
Yeah,
Barney at its apex was just this irresistible fruit that they just couldn't.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because really they were not our target audience, it's the little ones, the
Yeah.
2 to, actually 1 to 4-year-old, because some kids, the minute
Or
they
zero.
even really just starting to walk and stuff would get involved
Yeah.
in the show and be really drawn to it, the movement and the color and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we always used to say, yeah, well, say what you will, but you're not our target audience. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was. And I think that's what about it too. That ultimately everybody was in parallel lanes, and
yeah.
I think it all worked out.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Very much
think that I was going to say that one of the things, the one that we got so commonly um, was feedback from parents who had special needs kids,
Mhm.
and some kids who were autistic who never spoke before. The parents just totally credited Barney for bringing the child out and out of themselves and starting them to speak. And I mean, we got one particular letter was from a mom who said that her son was barely verbal, just barely verbal, and he was 4 or 5 years old, I think it was. But she said that he came up to her one day while she was in the kitchen, and he just wrapped his arms around her legs, and said, "I love you, mommy." And he had never said that before.
Oh, wow.
And he had just watched Barney, and he'd been watching Barney for a while. And
Yeah.
she wrote us a letter to tell us this because she credited Barney with really bringing him out and allowing him to express himself that way. And
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get the reward for doing something like this doesn't get better than that. So
Yeah. That's
we've been
the
lucky.
best part.
Yep.
One of my friends from college called me when the first episodes began to run on PBS, and where our names scrolled by, and she called and she said, "I know this has to be you. That's the voice of Baby Bop. And I just want you to know that I finally have time to take a shower and you run the dishwasher. Thank you so much." So see, Barney had a vast influence for
Ripple.
so many reasons,
Appreciated for
wonderful.
different reasons.
An emotional, an educational, and a utility purpose.
Yeah,
That's right.
logistical. It was a logistical thing.
Very much. And we are good to go on our audience questions. So let's go ahead and roll our first one. And this is going to come from Robert. And they want to know, what was your favorite song from the show?
Let's see. Anybody? I always say "Just Imagine." I
Oh, that's
always
a
think that's
beautiful
kind of
song.
like the spirit of the show, and it's an unusual song for Barney because it was a waltz. It was a 3/4 time, and it was kind of a ballad, and so Barney got to break out a little bit. But yeah, I think that it captures the spirit of the show in a lot of ways.
Love that. For all, just as an overall song for the show, I love that "Listen to the Nighttime"
Hmm.
song that was all about nighttime sounds that, the kids could listen to while they were going to sleep and that kind of thing. For BJ, just personally, as a song to perform, I love the "Rock and Roll Star." There was a rock and roll number that BJ did that, was a little bit out of our normal realm that was really fun. That was a great one. And then I always love the "Flying in the Airplane" song. That was, we did that many times. But in different, different episodes where it would be put in different ways. But I love that song too.
I think Brooks liked that one too. Jeff Brooks.
Yeah.
I think he'd like
Yeah.
doing that one too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I enjoyed Itsy Bitsy Spider. It was my big ballad. And,
Harking back.
I got to do it several times. I think it was requested a lot in the little jar on the piano. There were little requests for Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Your
And
tip,
when you
Baby Bop
and when
tip
you
jar.
audition,
And I
yes,
would-
and when you audition now, you, yes,
I would do
that's
that
your
in my
ballad,
boots.
right?
Too much. I like the No More Monkeys Jumping on the Bed song.
That's a good one.
A classic.
The countdown. It's math. I mean,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very fun. And Robert, thank you. That was a wonderful question to start us off with. What do we have next? Amber, how does it feel to have your voice on toys? And I'll expand that to how does it just feel to see yourself in the toy aisle?
Surreal.
it's fun.
I loved it.
It's weird. I mean,
When my nieces and nephews were little, because I gave them all BJ dolls that were counting. They were the counting BJ. And so they could listen to my voice when they went to sleep at night and stuff, which was neat to have them at the right age. They were a little older, but still they loved it. So that was really fun.
Nice.
yeah, I used to go to Toys R Us or Target or something, and if I was really bored, I would go. They had it was some of the Barneys had a button in the hand that you could push, and you'd get a little sample of the sound. So there were like 12 of them all lined up. So
They loved you there. They loved you at Toys R Us.
little madness. Madness in the toy aisle.
It's that weird guy again.
Yeah, there he goes.
Toy aisle.
Security.
Sir, please, the batteries in those don't last very long. We need to save those for the children.
Yeah.
Well,
But
which
it
is
was
kind
fun.
of sad because I still have, this is the counting BJ right here that I don't think he'll even count anymore. But he lasted for years and years, and then finally at some point he would just go.
Oh, yeah.
He got slower and slower. But
Well,
he lasted forever.
Is that because of the charge, or is just the batteries gave out? Or is it?
That's it.
You don't leave them there too long; they start to ooze out. So,
That's right.
Oh no, we don't want
you
that.
might pull the batteries out if they're old.
Oozing.
Yeah. But the Actimates
can hear him behind me.
that was fun. The Actimates Barney was really amazing because it
Oh,
Yeah.
that was very
that was
cool.
technical groundbreaker, and and countless hours in the booth saying, "There he is. There he is." There, over and over again. It's like the recording for Siri or something, a voice like that, when you
Yeah.
chopped up, put it in. And at the time, chips could only hold a tiny amount of information, and so
Yeah.
they had to really, crunch it down, and a lot of work.
Right.
But boy, did it, that was really, really, really fun.
That was
Really
fun because I got to do a couple of other characters on that too.
Oh,
The
yeah,
Hoot
yeah.
Owl
Mhm.
and what was the other?
A couple of other characters that
Well, that memory left.
that was the doll. Was it that Barney that they used for the kids who were
Yeah.
going in to have MRIs and things like that
Yeah.
to help them? Bob can tell that story.
Yeah, it was a kind of a special edition of it where we programmed in things where Barney would coach kids through cancer treatments, and I think it was through MRIs to get them, or radiation. I think it was.
It was
maybe.
intense
Get them to
radiation.
stay still.
Still, yeah,
Yeah,
so
get
they
them
could
to stay
lie
still
still.
and to breathe and to
It was with
Um,
St. Jude's, Hospital.
That's right. See,
Wow.
the
Yeah.
memory's not so bad after all.
There
But
you
yeah,
go.
Yeah, the character I played. I think she was a cow. I don't know. I mooed a lot.
But that,
I mean, it was, and they put these throughout several hospitals. They would put these in the treatment rooms, and they'd turn them on, and the kids would listen, and they said it really worked to help calm the kids down. So
Mhm.
that's great.
pretty amazing.
That's really fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Amber, thank you. Wonderful question. What do we have next? Hey, it's from Amy. Who is your favorite guest star of the show?
Ooh, who was it? Well, I mean, other than I have to mention Phyllis Cicero, who played
Mhm.
Stella the storyteller. She wasn't what you would call a guest. She was a regular. But you know, our beloved Phyllis, we lost her recently, and we just want to say thank you, Phyllis, for everything you did, and what a wonderful character you created, and what a wonderful character you were.
Yes. In addition, she was
Yeah,
a ray of
but
sunshine.
but we had some really great guests. We had
Yeah,
uh,
they cast a lot from the Dallas area. So
yeah,
for Patty, Bob, and myself both, we had a lot of friends that were in theater. And our friend Carol Farabee at the time,
She
she's
would be
Carol
my
Farabee
favorite
Blackwood
too.
now, but
Yeah.
she played the Queen of Hearts. And
right.
yeah, there were several really fun actors, you know, that got to come and play with Barney. And they always said, "Oh, you all have so much fun,"
Yes.
and we did.
Barry
Mhm.
Pearl was another. He was
Oh
actually
yeah,
a recurring character. He played Professor Tinkerput on the
yeah.
show, and Barry was always a lot of fun to have around. And he had a background that was very cool because he was. I don't know if he was in the original Broadway cast of Grease, but he was in the movie
Yes, he
Grease.
was
He
Judy on
played one of the John Travolta's
Well, his
uh,
his gang.
his
Yeah.
gang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
So he
T-Birds,
was
wasn't it?
very cool,
Yeah, in the
and we
movie.
had a couple of Riders on the Storm, the country western group came on.
Riders in the Sky.
Riders
Yeah,
in the
Riders in the
Sky.
Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They came on one
and
time. They were wonderful.
Tommy DePaola, the
Yes, the
children's
children's,
author,
the writer, Tommy Paola.
one of the great. I think he was one of the few that we had on more than once.
Yeah.
And but yeah, he was awesome.
And then we had a guest star, a 4-footed guest star. Remember our little boy? It was an Australian Shepherd dog. And
Oh yeah,
he was on the show a number of times. And that was always so much fun to have that dog on the show because it was uncanny the things that dog could do and was willing to do more takes than we were. So we're disciplined and better trained.
Well, if they had given us if they popped a treat in our mouths every time that we had to do a take, we might have been a little happier.
I know. It might have worked out.
True. Somebody posted an outtake
French
of
fry, anything.
somebody posted an outtake of the dog that we had on for the song Bingo one time, and it was a hound, and he just kind of, come on, Bingo, let's play. You know, 8 years in the face.
Bingo? Bingo?
So we also had a donkey once, as I recall.
We had an elephant.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
He worked for peanuts. But
Hey!
Thank you.
Patty pulled that one out of her trunk.
Thank you, Amy. Great question.
you're all thank you, thank you.
Water time.
Try the veal. It's
I-
delicious.
Out of curiosity, how long was your side of the equation? But did you record lines first and then they filmed, or did they film and then they record your lines, or how did production work?
Oh no, we did it in real time. That was the DinoSync thing. It
Right,
was
the DinoSync, yeah,
nobody
okay.
ever did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
You
so
know?
no one. Yeah, but I was thinking, was there ever pickups or pre's or anything like that? So it was full
The
blown.
music we would pre-record.
Every once
the
in a
Okay.
while.
songs. Mhm.
All right,
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
kind of
But
the
I don't-
music might have been a little challenging to do in DinoSync.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And over
Yeah,
and
we
over
had-
again. Yeah.
Yeah, for PBS production, it was pre-record the music and then come in and then in real time talk over the intro into the song and breathe, and then the vocal comes in. You know,
Right.
and the editors always appreciated when we got that right, and plus the fact that you're working with kids, and every once in a while they're going to change the script on you, and
Mhm.
right when you're working into a song, and so you better think it's on the quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, our kids were really pretty consistent, but that was fun. It's like it's like doing live theater, which is muy fun.
Yes.
And incidentally, I have to thank you on behalf of several of my friends here. Bob knows I'm a performer for the attractions in Orlando, and I've had several friends who worked on the Barney show at Universal over the years. And I had a friend of mine who was one of the very last Mr. Peekaboos when they closed it a few months ago. So
Very
Yeah.
sad.
now,
Oh,
on behalf
yeah,
of
that's angry.
I thank you for providing for doing your gig and giving several of my friends their gigs.
Oh, thank you.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I get that cut from them every month.
It's wonderful though in our business when we can be a part of something that provide, because you look at how many
Yeah.
people were cast in our tours over the years, and we did albums that gave work in studios, and it's wonderful to be a part of that. To be a part of something that kind of keeps on bringing more people in and giving them, especially performers, because we
Yeah.
our work is sometimes hard to find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to think, when I went into that audition, it was first 5 episodes for BJ, and it turned into 18 years.
Yeah.
And Bob was, there forever. Julie was there before I was. So it's a great gig if you can get it 18
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. For me, it was supposed to be 3 home videos, and that was it. Who knew?
Yeah.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed.
And still had fun. Still look forward to it.
Yeah.
When I would go into work, we were never bored. We had a great time.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more at least, so let's roll another and see what we find. And this comes from Jalen. What was the funniest thing that ever happened on set that you feel comfortable sharing with us?
Comfortable sharing.
I don't know. Well, the weirdest thing that ever happened on set, I mean, Josh probably talked about it, was the time that his was it, did you had Josh Martin on? Yeah, and he was the one, they called him Smokey because the fan inside the costume caught fire.
Yes.
Like, not really funny for him at the time, I'm sure, but definitely the wildest thing that happened.
Yeah, I when I posted him on stage, I always say, "Okay, tell the Barney story. Tell the Barney story." He's like, "All right."
Well, did he tell the part where it went out on a police radio because the fire department was coming out to our studios, and our local ABC affiliate picked up the story and said, "Well, evidently today Barney caught on fire," and the flooding of the switchboard at that TV station with parents calling saying, "Can you please tell our children that Barney is fine? Please, please, please." And they did. They came back on, toward the end of the event and said, "Barney's fine. He's not on fire. It was just a little bit," like, careful what you just pop out there, folks, because you got some 1.5 to 5-year-olds that take it pretty literally. So
Yeah.
I mean, there were some shock jocks who put something out on the air that was really bad once, and I had to, and my parents ended up calling me like later in that day. It had gotten from Dallas to where my parents were in Houston, and in the Houston area in Baytown, and they called in a panic. It's like,
oh,
it's amazing, but we had so little of that, actually. I think it was, we were really lucky, and that media coverage was, there was some cynicism to it, but generally we had the support of, and the thing is that we had, the parents watched Barney and Friends with their kids more than any other show on television. I mean, a study showed that. So it was kind of a myth that everybody hated Barney. So, so I think it's fun to talk about the ribbing and everything, but we have to remember that, we really did have the support of the vast majority of people, and even most shock jocks too. I heard that Howard Stern did a really good Barney imitation, actually.
That's
I'm pretty sure his daughters were at that age. So
there you go.
And at least one of his wives was at that age at that time.
Dee Snider was the other one of all people. Dee Snider did a knockout Barney imitation.
We had a really funny episode one time where Barney had to jump into a wading pool. And that was one that Carrie Stinson was inside the costume at that point. And really, it was one of those things where you got to get it right, because put several cameras on it, because once Barney jumps into the water in a suit that already weighed, what, 60 pounds?
60 pounds? Yeah.
And then it gets waterlogged. Barney's going down, and you got to get that suit off of him fast. But it was very funny. But to watch him jump into that wading pool, and then it was like Birth of a Dinosaur, because they had to come pull that thing off of Carrie as fast as they could so that he wasn't, weighted down in that water. But that was a funny episode. There was a lot of ad-libbing that went on in that particular episode.
How many costumes did they have for each character? I assume there's at least more than one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there was a deep. I wasn't sure if there was like a whole art. I only got 20 of them just in case, or like a standard 3 or 4.
I think there was probably two or three of each active at any one time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you could walk into the costume storage area, and it was a little spooky because it looked like one of the horror movies where things are just hanging from the ceiling. It's surreal. There's body parts. And
I've been in the Walt Disney version of that with the heads and the costumes and on the hooks, and it is very disconcerting.
The Barney came off with there was a hook in the top of the head, and they lifted it up off of the dancer. And we had someone that came through the studio one time that worked in one of the offices and brought their couple of their children. And I believe a small traumatization was ensued when their little one looked up and saw Barney hanging from a hook in the top of his head from the ceiling. There was a bit of screaming. So we kind of learned a lesson there about we need to make sure all doors are closed. Even if it's some of our in-house people,
of the kids.
Absolutely.
Still working that out in therapy.
Yeah, exactly. There was another time where the little dinos, their heads would just pop off. So they could rehearse without the heads on, or they could pop the heads off just to cool down a little bit. Barney just had to have a fan in his mouth. Where they would blow air in to try and cool the actor off. But there was one occasion where somebody had popped, but they tried to really be protective of the kids, right? Even the kids who were coming on as extras and things, to make sure that they weren't rehearsing that way while there were, not our regular kids, but, extras and anybody that, might be affected by that. But there was one time they had popped BJ's head off and put it on a cart. It was sitting there, same thing. A little kid saw it, and the eyes got big, and one of the guys who was standing there, quick thinking, went, "It's a cake."
I hadn't heard that one. It's a cake.
It's a cake.
Quick thinking.
So
Quick thinking.
big mask and cover.
And man, what great work! Wow, it's so realistic.
Yeah, very good.
Oh my goodness. Jalen, thank you. That was a wonderful question. And GalaxyCon viewers, this has been my time with the cast of Barney and Friends. Gentlemen and ladies, this has been absolutely wonderful. Any parting words for our audience before we go?
Stay safe and healthy, kids. Wear those masks, wash those hands, stay socially
Use
distant.
your imaginations.
Use your emasculation.
There you go.
Hey!
Wear your mask.
Right on.
That's it.
And remember, kindness is contagious as well.
Yes.
It has been my absolute pleasure to serve you all today. Thank you again for joining us at the GalaxyCon virtual stage. Thank you to our audience for joining us today, and thank you for your great questions. Hope to see you all again soon. Until then, bye-bye, everyone. Take care, and please keep washing those hands.